بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق أجمعين محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The subject of fiqh, and we're discussing Mutahhiraat, and we started with the first thing which purify other things is water, and we discussed how water can purify things from contaminated with urine to be washed with little water or running water. How many times? Generally, as we said, with running water, one time is sufficient, and said sometimes better or obligatory precaution or recommended precaution 2 times. But with less than core, usually it is 2 times after removing the urine completely from the cloth or body or other. And as we said, the general trend is to wash it 3 times so that you are sure you can cover all the views of the maraja. Because some said to recommend it 3 times or obligatory precaution to be 2 times or 3 times. That is in general. We come now to some more details about that, and that is from the issue 163. If anything becomes najis with najasat other than urine, now it becomes tahir by first removing the najasat and then pouring under core water once, allowing it to flow off. But if it is a dress, etc., it should be squeezed so that the remaining water should flow off. You know, the water is sometimes core or sometimes under core water. He said other than urine, everything else, first you have to remove the original impurity. Now, for example, there is a blood in your hand with, let us say, cotton, and you can remove the blood gradually till your injury is without blood, if possible, and then you wash it 1 time with core water, or even if there is little water, 1 time after removal of original impurity is sufficient. So, other than urine, with urine, as it was discussed, it said with little water, you need to wash it 2 times, or some recommend 3 times. But with other than urine, only you remove original impurity and then wash it 1 time will be sufficient. Now, if it is a piece of cloth, you know, because we said the washed water to come out, ghusala ma'ul ghusala to come out, they said when you put water, you have to squeeze it, so whatever remaining water, which is, let us say, dirty water, so that your cloth will be clean. So if there is a blood in our dress, first we wash original impurity, which is the blood, should be removed. When there is no blood, we pour water 1 time. If it is little water, well, if it is running water, that is better. And 1 time we pour, and then we squeeze it. When the washed water, the contaminated water, comes out, then it becomes clean and tahir. Issue 164. If it is proposed to make tahir a mat woven with a thread, it should be immersed in core or running water. When the essential najasat disappears from it, it will be tahir. But if one uses under core water for making it tahir, then it must be wrung or squeezed in whatever way possible, even by passing it under the feet till water in it runs off. You know, here is the practical problem when a mat or a carpet gets najis. Either you put it in a fountain of water which has a core water, after removing original impurity, whether it is urine or blood, whatever it is, you immerse it there, and then you squeeze it in a way that water will come out, and that will be the right way. Now, if you cannot take it, or you don't have a fountain full of water, you have little water, what to do with that little water? say, let us say here in the carpet is become najis. First you have to wash, let us say, the blood which is there and remove original impurity. After that you have to pour water and then squeeze it. Squeeze it with a sponge, squeeze it with tissue paper. I mean, you cannot squeeze the carpet by hand, not like the cloth. There's a big carpet. But then you have to take, as we say, the washed water out. And that washed water can be taken out by many ways. If you put a sponge, the sponge will take the water. If you put the tissue will take the water out. So by any way you can take it out. Another problem comes when there is the wooden mat for a prayer mat. It is made of wood, but threads are there in between. Now if you wash it, how can you squeeze these threads? That is the question, become difficult. You say maybe with your feet you can press it all, or by hand you can press it all, so all the threads will be pressed and whatever remaining paper in the threads is there will go out, because the thread is different from the wood. The wood, if outside become clean, it is clean, but the thread will absorb water like the dress cloth. So it need to be squeezed. Now it is so many threads, how to squeeze them? So you say either by feet you press them, or by hand you rub it by hand, so it will be squeezed and whatever remaining water is there to come out. The main idea, I mean, application of all, generally it should be washed and then the dirty water, let us say, or the washed water should come out. And these are practical examples how to take it out. If it is piece of a cloth, you can squeeze it by hand. It's easy. But if it is a carpet, it's difficult, so you squeeze it by a sponge or paper so that you can take it out. And if it is a prayer mat, there are threads and the threads become najis, then you have to squeeze the thread by any way, by hand or by feet, by whatever way, so that the washed water which is inside should come out. Issue 165, if the exterior of wheat, rice, soap, etc. becomes najis, it becomes tahir by dipping it in core or running water. But if their interior becomes najis, they will be tahir in core or running water reach the internal parts. However, in the case of a soap and similar objects, water does not reach the internal parts at all. You see, if the wheat or rice in a water, and a child, his finger is najis, he put it in the water and you don't know, and then the rice absorb the najis water. So now inside the wheat or inside the rice become najis. So he said you have to put, again, in order to make a tahir, you have to put it in running water, core water, when the water will reach, the clean water will reach inside the rice and make it tahir. For soap, well, if you put a soap in water, it will absorb water. If that water is najis, naturally inside will be najis, So it has to be put in water where it can absorb tahir water. But he said practically is not possible, because soap, you can't get the water inside so easily to make it tahir, so it looks practically impossible. Actually, there is a question. They say, what thing, if it becomes najis, cannot be made tahir? Cannot, The answer is the soap when absorb najis water, Because to put tahir water is not possible, will not filtrate inside, so you cannot clean it. You can wash your hand, okay, but then that soap is najis, You can wash your hand and then you clean your hand with running water and make it clean, but the soap itself will remain najis because najasat was inside. I mean, it was in a najis water and it absorbed najis water. Now to absorb tahir water is not that easy. So it's practically not possible. Issue 166, If one doubts whether najis water has seeped into the interior of soap or not, its interior will be considered as tahir. It was tahir, and now I have doubt whether it absorbed najis water or not. We say that the doubt will not negate the certainty. So we take it as interior is tahir because it was tahir before, and I don't know whether najis water was absorbed or not. Issue 167. If the other part of rice, meat, or any other similar thing becomes najis, if the outer part of rice or meat become najis, it may be placed in a bowl, etc., and then water is poured in it once. Then the bowl is emptied so that the objects in it become tahir. But if the bowl itself is najis, this process must be repeated 3 times. At the end, the bowl will also become tahir. If one wishes to make a dress or similar thing tahir in a container, one will pour water and then press and squeeze the object and tilt the container so that the remaining water pours off. You see here, you have a container and you have meat in it. How to make it tahir with little water. If you have running water from tap water, okay, you can put running water. It is mixed with the meat and then make it tahir. You can wash it and finish. But if you have little water, you don't have running water. Now you see, if it is in the container, you put water on the meat or rice, whatever thing is najis. When water is mixed and then you throw it out, when you throw it out one time, this is sufficient. Now if the bowl itself was najis before you put najis meat in it, so now the bowl, as it was said, should be washed 3 times. So now the bowl with the meat inside it, you have to wash it 3 times, in the sense you pour water, you scrub it so that it will reach all parts, and then throw it out. Then you again pour water in it, and then scrub it with water till it gets all parts, and then throw it out, and then the 3rd time it become tahir. So the meat one time will be tahir, but the bowl itself needs 3 times to be washed. And you said with little water possible to put, but you have to throw it out. As I said, always the dirty water or the washed water or the remaining water, whatever you call it, should be thrown out in order thing to be tahir. You put water, it is mixed with whatever contaminated najasat is there, and then that water should be thrown out for the thing to be tahir. And as we said before, the washed water which is thrown out, last time which the thing will be tahir, the washed water is tahir. Otherwise, before that, the washed water is najis. So if it is to be washed 1 time, so it is first and last, so the washed water is tahir. But if it has to be washed 2 times or 3 times, the first washed water is najis, the second one is tahir. Or if it is 3 times, the second one is najis, the 3rd one is tahir. So the last process, when the thing become tahir, its wash water is also tahir. But before the last, the washed water is najis. You have to avoid not to contaminate your cloth or your body. Issue 168. If a najis dress which has been dyed with indigo or with any similar dye is dipped into core or running water, it will become tahir if water reaches all its parts before water becomes mudaf with color. But if it is made tahir with less than core water, it will become tahir only if mudaf water does not come out at the time of wringing or squeezing. When you put dye and you put water, the washed water will not be pure water, will be mixed water, mixed with the dye. So that is not sufficient. You have to put so much water till the water which comes become pure water. So he said either you put it in core water, and when the core water will goes inside the cloth, this is if the dye is najis, but if the dye is tahir, of course, no problem. But suppose the dye was najis and you make a dye, well, some people used to put a black dye or a blue one for their cloth. Their cloth is white, they change it into black by the color, you know. So he's talking that is usual in some of the Middle Eastern countries. Maybe nowadays not very usual because the black dress and other colored dress were available. In those days, the too many dresses were not available, so they dye one of the dresses at time of, let us say, Muharram, if they need to wear a black dress. So he's talking of that practical problem. He said, when the washed water comes out, it should not be mudaf, should not be unpure water. It should be pure water in order to be tahir. Issue 169. If a dress is washed with cold water or running water and later, for example, black mud is found stuck on it, the dress will be tahir if one does not suspect that the black mud has prevented water from reaching the dress. You know, sometimes the dress is not very clean. It has little dirt, you know, either mud or something. But you know, when you washed it, the water has gone below the cloth and covered all of it. That was not too much to prevent water from reaching the garment itself. So he said if the water reached the garment from other side, you know, reached the garment, for example, it made it tahir. That will not affect. (170) If a slush of mud or soap is seen on a dress, etc., after being made tahir with water, it will be considered tahir. However, if najis water has reached the interior of mud or soap, then the exterior of the slush will be tahir, but its interior will be najis. You know, some of the dress, you know, when you wash it by hand with soap, sometimes when you finish, you see the soap is there, you know. I mean, suppose the soap by itself is tahir. If the soap is najis, then of course it will remain najis. So you say if there is something there, and if you wash it, then outside at least become tahir, because when you wash it with little water, you squeeze it, the water will come out and will make it tahir. Even if inside of the mud or clay is najis, then outside become tahir, will not affect your dress. You know, you take it out and outside become tahir with the dress. So inside is najis, okay, let it be najis. You throw it out and clean the cloth from it. Issue 171. A najis thing does not become tahir unless the najisul ayn, or the original impurity, is removed from it. But there is no harm if the color or smell of the najasat remains in it. So if blood is removed from a cloth and the cloth is made tahir with water, it will become tahir even if the color of a blood remains on it. But if on account of the smell or color it becomes certain or seems probable that some particles of najasat are still present in the cloth, etc., it will remain najis. Again here, practical example. Sometime when there is a blood and it will remain for 1-2 days, when you wash it, the blood will work like a dye and a red spot of the blood will remain, a faint red will remain. So he said, is that color najis or tahir? He said, if it is color, then it is tahir, because the color has no thickness. So there is no blood, actually only color of the blood is there is no real blood. So if you wash it and there is no thickness in it, and you see the only color of the blood, even if the smell of the blood is there, because sometimes the smell will remain, then it is okay. But if the smell or color, because there is thickness of blood still there, was not washed properly, so naturally that is original impurity is there and it will remain najis, you know. The color has no thickness, so the color by itself is tahir. But if there is a thickness or particles are there, naturally those particles are for original impurity blood, and that is najis. Issue 172, if najasat of the body is removed in cold or running water, the body will become tahir, except when it is najis because of urine, for which one washing is not enough. But it is not necessary to walk in and out of water to achieve two washing. If a person underwater wipes the najis part with hand, allowing water to reach there again, it will be suffice. You know, there is a fountain of water, and he said if the body is najis with urine, you have to wash it 2 times, even if it is cold water. So now, when you are inside the water, so that is the first wash. How can you make the second wash? The fountain and swimming pool, and you are in. Okay, the first time you are in is the first wash. How you make the second wash? Well, either you come out and you go in again, that become second wash. But he said it is not necessary. Or you walk inside, for example. So he said, okay, the new water come and wash the first water, so become 2, 3, 4 times and so on, you know. But he said, no, all that is not necessary. If you just rub it with your hand, so the first water will go, the second water will come. Even while you are standing, I mean, if your hand is najis, when you entered, it will be first wash. You rub it with your hand, new water is coming, we wash it and become 2 wash, you know. Because some people, you see that when you go in the river or a fountain, you go in and go out and then go in to make it 2 or 3 times. He said, no, not necessary. Just rub it with your hand 2 times, it will become 2 times, 3 times, 3 times. That is sufficient. See, all these are practical examples of what people face and what people ask and what people can think. You know, he gives so many examples. The idea is to wash with water 2 times with cold water, or 3 times if it is urine, or 1 time. But how to wash it, he gives so many examples to be aware of it. Issue 173. If najis food remains between the teeth and water is taken in the mouth and moved in such a way that it reaches the entire najis food, the food becomes tahir. See, inside the mouth, if there is a blood or is impure, which make the food impure because of the blood of the mouth, and let us say little food between the teeth is there, will become najis by the blood. He said when the original impurity is out, the food inside will be tahir by only our saliva. If the saliva covers it and there is no original impurity, no blood is remaining there, because it is inside the teeth, no need to wash it with water. Inside the mouth, no need to wash it with water inside. You can wash outside, or you should wash outside if it is najis, but not inside. So inside will be tahir when the najasat will go and it is mixed with saliva. Issue 174. If the najis hair of head and face is washed with undercool water and it is not overgrown, it is not necessary to squeeze them for remaining water to flow off. Well, he said to squeeze and let the remaining water to flow off is necessary from the cloth. Is it the same for hair of the beard or hair of the head? If it is washed, you know, he said, you know, that is not necessary. Whatever usual water will go out is sufficient. So it's not necessary to squeeze it. You know, if you wash your hair, which is najis, and you wash it with water, no need to squeeze it. If you squeeze it and the remaining water comes out, fine. But what I mean, is it obligatory? He said, no, that is for the cloth, not for the hair. So that the rules are different for different things. Yes. Issue 175. If a part of the najis body or dress is washed with undercool water, the part adjacent to it, where water usually reaches, will become tahir. When the najis part becomes tahir, it means that it is not necessary to wash those sides independently, as the najis part and parts around it become tahir together. And similar is the case if the tahir thing is placed by the side of a najis thing and water is poured on both of them. Hence, if water is poured on all fingers while trying to make one najis finger tahir and najis as well as tahir, water reaches them all, they will all be tahir together. You see what practical problem happen? If you have a dress and this part is najis, when you put water will splash around, will be absorbed around. So now if you make around also tahir, it will go around and around, then you have to wash it all. He said, no, that is not the idea. If you wash wherever it is najis, and whatever, when the najis become tahir, the adjacent areas also will be tahir by it. Because all will get water and are squeezed and become tahir. Not that if little najasat in your cloth, you have to wash it all. Because when you wash it, again, the area will be more. If you wash the more, then will be more and more and more then. So this not like that. Or if your, let us say, hand is najis here, when you wash it, najis water will go to other fingers, will be najis. So now when you second time, if it is second or third time or first time, whatever, as I said, from blood one time sufficient, if urine 2 or 3 times. So when it become tahir by third time, all of it will be tahir together. Because all is already washed, you washed one, and then whatever drained water to other part of the fingers, let us say, it will make it tahir all together. Some people who have obsession, when it is his finger is najis, he put his finger in water and he said, oh no, the najis water reached up. So he dip it more and they said, no, then water reached up, and again he dip it and then it will go to the shoulder until he himself goes inside the water to clean little finger. He has to wash himself in water. He said that is obsession. He is explaining actually that to know that theoretically if you speak, okay, this water is najis and has gone up and this, he said no, once it become tahir, all the adjacents also it become tahir, because adjacent was not really directly contaminated with najasat, were contaminated by najis water. When najis water become tahir, it will be washed and the last wash will wash all of it and make it tahir. But if it is in a fountain, one time is sufficient, and then the water of the fountain is not changing its color or smell or taste by najasat. We said if there is a bleeding too much and you put your hand is continuously bleeding and you put your hand in water and the water become red, yes, that is true. If you dip your hand more and that red water which with the blood will reach up will be najis. But if your finger is najis and there is no blood and you put in the washer, the smell or color or taste of the water will not change with little blood. So you should not think that, okay, najasat will go up and up and up, then you have to swim there in order to be tahir. He said, no, that is not necessary. Issue 176, meat or fat which becomes najis can be made tahir with water like all other things. Same is the case if the body or dress has a little grease on it, which does not prevent water from reaching it. But he wants to say the meat has oil in it. Will that oil prevent? He say usually oil or fat of the meat, if it is najis, naturally that part which is outside become najis. So if you wash it, will be tahir. But if my hand, you put ointment, if the ointment prevent water from reaching the skin, if the skin is najis, then naturally you have to remove the ointment. But if you is not putting ointment, you're putting cream, and the cream will disappear, only little feeling of it is there, not really a thickness, and that is not a preventing water, you say there is no harm. When you wash your hand, it be tahir, because there is no barrier to prevent water from reaching your skin. Little cream is not affecting, or little grease. If you touch the meat, for example, you get little fat on your finger, but that is not too much that if you wash it will not go, it will not prevent water from reaching the skin. If you wash it, it is okay. Not necessary every time to use soap to remove it completely, because it is so little that is not preventing water from reaching your skin. If little touch, okay. If it is too oily, naturally, if the oil, those who work in cars, for example, there is oil, and that oil preventing water from reaching the skin, then for taharat has to be removed completely. For wudu also has to be removed in order to perform wudu. But if it is so little that do not prevent water from reaching the skin, it is okay. For taharat you can wash it, and for wudu still you can do wudu with that little oil or little grease. So the main issue is it should not prevent water from reaching the skin. If it is little, it is okay. Issue 177. If a utensil or one's body is najis but also so greasy that water cannot reach it, one should first remove the grease so that water may reach one's body or the utensil before making it tahir. So you say if the utensil is najis and there is too much oil from food which prevent washing of the utensil itself, no, in that case you have to wash it with soap or otherwise, or with tissue paper, remove it completely so that water will reach that. But if it is little, as I said in the previous issue, then it is okay. 178. Tap water which is connected with core water is considered to be core. We said core is an amount of size of water which is 3.5 by 3.5 by 3.5 spans, 42 and quarter of the span. But now the tap water by itself, there is no that much water, but it is connected to pipes of the city water. Total of it is more than core. Is it regarded as core or not? Well, according to many ulama, including Ayatullah Al-Sistani, said yes, because it is in touch with core, so it's regarded like core water. But according to some of the ulama, I said no, this is regarded like little water. So if you have to wash with little water 2 times or 3 times, then even with tap water you have to wash it 2 or 3 times. You have to regard it as little water. But according to Ayatullah Sistani and other maraji, many they said no, because it is in continuation with large amount of water, more than core, so is regarded as core water. 179. If a person washes a thing with water and becomes sure that it has become tahir, but doubts later whether or not he had removed the najisul ayn, original impurity, from it, he should wash it again and ensure that the original impurity has been removed. Because in the beginning he knew that there is original impurity in this cloth, and when he washed it, he was not sure whether it was removed or not. So he was certain it was najis, and now he has doubt, maybe become tahir, may not be. So he said doubt will not negate certainty. So he has to remove original impurity and wash it again. So the general rule, but he is applying it here. Issue 180. If the ground which absorbs water, example land on the surface of which there is fine sand, becomes najis, it can be made tahir with undercore water. If there is a sandy ground and then become najis, how to make it tahir? You say outside of it with water you can pour water 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, if it is urine or blood, depend 1 or 2 times, whatever, and it can become tahir. Now, if water is absorbed inside, outside will be tahir. If water reaches inside also will be tahir. If not, then at least outside become tahir. Issue 181. If the floor which is made of stones or bricks or other hard ground in which water is not absorbed becomes najis, it can be made tahir with undercourt water, but it is necessary that so much water is poured on it that it begins to flow. And if that water is not drained out and it collects there, it should be drawn out by a vessel or soaked by a cloth. Again here, a practical example. The floor is hard floor and it is najis. When you put little water and it will flow, that drained water should come out. So if it drained to a drainage and will go, then it is good, you know. But if it remained there or there is a small pit, it is collected there. So he said you have to take it out, absorb it by sponge or cloth. You know, as you say, the remaining water should be removed. You know, so when you pour, either it drained by itself if there is a drainage. So you pour water here and will go. Water will move till the drainage, or ultimately you have to drain it by sponge or cloth or whatever thing. Issue 182. If the exterior of salt stone or something resembling it becomes najis, it can be made tahir with undercourt water. Stone of salt, or even if it is solid type of sugar, cubic sugar, these cubes is solid. You know, if outside become najis, with undercourt water you can wash it and it can become tahir with that. There's no, though some of it will be dissolved, but after all, outside when it is washed, it will be tahir. But in issue 183 said, if najis sugar or syrup is turned into solid cubes or granules, it will not become tahir if it is immersed in court or running water. Now the sugar or the sweet water become najis, and then gradually it becomes solid, like when they make the cubes, or they make different type of qand. In Iran they use it usually. So he said it was liquid syrup and then becomes solid, and if it was najis, then inside the solid is najis. Now inside, when you wash it, water will not reach inside, so inside will remain najis. You know, if you use the cube for tea and inside is najis, when outside is absorbed, suppose you washed outside and outside become tahir, but inside is najis. So when it dissolves, then inside najasat will make things najis, so you cannot make it tahir. But if it was solid already and part of it, its surface become najis, if you wash it, then it become tahir, because the water did not, or najasat did not go inside, it's only outside, and you wash the outside. I think it's sufficient up to here, and inshallah we'll start the next session about the earth, how to make impure things as pure. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.